बुद्धिहीन तन जान के सुमिरो पवन कुमार बल बुद्धि विद्या देहु मोहि हरहु कलेश विकार जय हनुमान ज्ञान गुण सागर जय कपीश तिहु लोक उजागर रामदूत अतुलित बलधाम अंजनी पुत्र पवन सुत नाम महावीर विक्रम बजरंगी कुमति निवार सुमति के संगी कंचन वरण विराज सुबेसा कानन कुंडल कुंचित केस हाथ वज्र ध्वजा विराज कांधे मूज जनेऊ साज शंकर सुवन केसरी नंदन तेज प्रताप महाजगवंदन विद्यावान गुणी अति चातुर नाम काज करिबे को अतुर प्रभु चरित्र सुनिबे को रसिया राम लखन सीता मन बसिया सूक्ष्म रूप धरि सिया दिखावा विकट रूप धरि अंग जरावा भीम रूप धरि असुर संहारे रामचंद्र के काज सवारे काय सजीवन लखन जियाए जीव हुए हर्षि उर लाए रघुपति कीन्ही बहुत बड़ाई तुम मम प्रिय भरत सम भाई सहस वदन तुमरो जस गाओ अस कहि श्रीपति कंठ लगाओ सनकादिक ब्रह्मादि मुनीसा नारद शारद सहित ईसा जम कुबेर दिगंबर जहांते कवि गोविंद गाय सके गानते तुम उपकार सुमेवाई कीन्हा राम मिलाय रजपद दीन्हा तुमरो मंत्र विभीषण माना लांगेश्वर भय सब जग जाना जुग सहस्त्र जो जन पर भानु लील्यो धाई मधुर बल गान प्रभु मुद्रिका मेरे मुख माही चली लांगी गाय अचरज नाही दुर्गम काज जगत के जेते सुगम अनुग्रह तुम्हारे देते राम दुआरे तुम रखवारे होत न आज्ञा बिनु पैसारे सब सुख लाहे तुम्हारी शरण तुम रक्षक काहू को डरन आपन तेज समारो आपे तीनों लोक हंगते गांवे भूत पिशाच निकट नहीं नावे महावीर जब नाम सुनावे नासे रोग हरे सब पीरा जपत निरंतर हनुमत वीर संकट ते हनुमान छुड़ावे मन क्रम वचन ध्यान जो लावे सब पर राम तपस्वी राजा तिनके काज सकल तुम साज और मनोरथ जो कोई लावे सोई अमित जीवन फल पावे चारों जुग परताप तुम्हारा हे प्रसिद्ध जगत उजियारा साधु श्री हनुमत बलवीर जय 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 हनुमान गोसाई कृपा करो गुरुदेव की नाई जो सतवार पाठ कर कोई छूट ही बन महासुख होए जोया भरे हनुमान चालीसा होया सिद्धि साखी गौरीसा तुलसीदास सदा हरिचेरा कीजे नाथ हृदय महादेव पवन तनय संकटहरण मंगलमूर्ति रूप राम लखन सीता सहित हृदय स्वरूप मंगलमूर्ति मारुतनंदन सकल मंगल मुरलीकांदन मंगलमूर्ति मारुतनंदन सकल मंगल मुरलीकांदन calling out to hungry hearts everywhere through endless time. You who wander, you who thirst, I offer you this heart of mine. Calling out to hungry spirits everywhere through endless time. Calling out to hungry hearts, all lost and left behind. Gather round and share this meal. Your joy and your sorrow, I make it mine. Shri Ram Jaya Ram Jai Jai Ram 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 I'm sure my God is real, for I can hear Him in my soul. Well, yes, God is real in my soul. Yes, God is real, for He has washed and made me whole. His love for me, well, it shines like pure gold. Yes, God is real, for I can feel Him in my soul. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Sita Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Sita Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Sita Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Sita Ram, and I have found a way to live in the presence of the Lord. I have found a way to live in the presence of the Lord. I have found a way to live in the presence of the Lord. And so, in the name Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Sita Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Sita Ram, Ram Ram, I have found a way to live in the presence of the Lord. I have found a way to live in the presence of the Lord. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Sita Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Sita Ram, Ram Ram, I have found a way to live. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, I have found a way to live. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Ram, Ram
Okay, what you've been told about me, but not.
No, I've not been told anything, that's okay. No, it's just that originally this assessment is supposed to be 10:30, and they changed it to 12, started to messing around.
Did they change it so that they could get an advocate for me? Because
I don't know the reason for the
Melody
change.
couldn't make it today.
I know Melody couldn't, that's why she asked me to come and sort of stand in for her. Where would you like me to sit, Susan?
Anywhere you like. Choose a chair, there are three.
No, I haven't been told anything about you other
Oh
than...
look, I've still left my dirty washing out.
Melody-
I thought I'd tied it up properly.
That's okay. Melody forwarded the email this morning that you sent to her, just so that I
Oh
could...
yes, so you've seen it, good.
I've seen that, yeah. So basically they were giving you somebody else's medication, weren't they?
Pardon? Yeah, I mean, I was going to write the email before that happened. I mean, I was poised to write it, but you know, that happened.
Yeah.
As I'd already decided to write it, so I just put that down as the latest thing.
Yeah. Don't worry. So,
Especially with it being, never mind. I explained in the email. I don't need to go into that again, do I?
Yeah.
So you've already read what's said about it.
yeah. So basically, the purpose of today's assessment
I know.
is to assess you for a Section 3, is it?
Mm.
Yeah. How do you feel about that?
Well, I don't think it's right for the reasons that I said in my email.
Right.
You know, then, but you know, I'm not party to their decision to go ahead with it. In spite of what the nursing team said, they've said about it that they're opposed to it going ahead.
बुद्धिहीन तनु जान के सुमिरो पवन कुमार बल बुद्धि विद्या देहु मोहि हरहु कलेश विकार जय हनुमान ज्ञान गुण सागर जय कपीश तिहु लोक उजागर रामदूत अतुलित बलधाम अंजनी पुत्र पवन सुत नाम महावीर विक्रम बजरंगी कुमति निवार सुमति के संगी कंचन वरण विराज सुबेसा कानन कुंडल कुंचित केस हाथ वज्र ध्वजा विराज कांधे मूज जनेऊ साज शंकर सुवन केसरी नंदन तेज प्रताप महाजगवंदन विद्यावान गुणी अति चातुर राम काज करिबे को आतुर प्रभु चरित्र सुनिबे को रसिया राम लखन सीता मन बसिया सूक्ष्म रूप धरि सिया दिखावा विकट रूप धरि अंग जरावा भीम रूप धरि असुर संहारे रामचंद्र के काज सवारे काय सजीवन लखन जियाए श्री रघुवीर हर्षि उर लाए रघुपति कीन्ही बहुत बड़ाई तुम मम प्रिय भरत सम भाई सहस वदन तुमरो जस गावै अस कहि श्रीपति कंठ लगावै सनकादिक ब्रह्मादि मुनीसा नारद शारद सहित ईसा जम कुबेर दिगंबर जहांते कवि कोविद कहि सके गणांते तुम उपकार सुमेवा कीन्हा राम मिलाय रजपद दीन्हा वचन ध्यान जो लावे सब परम तपस्वी राजा इनके काज सकल तुम साज और मनोरथ जो कोई लावे सोई अमित जीवन फल पावे चारों युग परताप तुम्हारा हे प्रसिद्ध जगत उजियार साधु संत के तुम रखवारे असुर निकंदन राम दुलारे अष्ट सिद्धियों निधि के दाता असवर दीन जानकी माता राम रसायन तुम्हारे पास सदा रहो रघुपति के दास तुम्हारे भजन राम को पावे जन्म जन्म के दुख बिसरावे अंत काल रघुवर पुर जाई जहाँ जन्म हरि बात कहाई और देवता चित्त न धरई अनुमत से सर्व सुख करई संगत कते मिते सब पीरा जो सुरे हनुमत बलवीर जय 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 हनुमान गोसाई कृपा करो गुरुदेव की नाई जो सतवार पाठ कर कोई छूट ही बन महासुख होए जोया पर हनुमान चालीसा होया सिद्धि साखी गौरीसा तुलसीदास सदा हरि चेरा कीजे नाथ हृदय महादेव पवन तनय संकट हरण मंगल मूर्ति रूप राम लखन सीता सहित हृदय बसल स्वरूप मंगल मूर्ति मारुतनंदन सकल मंगल मुरली कंदन मंगल मूर्ति मारुतनंदन सकल मंगल मुरली कंदन calling out to hungry hearts everywhere through endless time. You who wander, you who thirst, I offer you this heart of mine. Calling out to hungry spirits everywhere through endless time. Calling out to hungry hearts, all lost and left behind. Gather round and share this meal. Your joy and your sorrow, I make it mine. Shri Ram Jaya Ram Jai Jai Ram. 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 Sitaram 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 Sitaram. Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai. There are some things I may not know. There are some places, dear Lord, I may not know. But there's one thing of which I'm sure. My God is real, for I can hear Him in my soul. Well, yes, God is real, real in my soul. Yes, God is real, for He has washed and made me whole. His love for me, well, it shines like pure gold. Yes, God is real, for I can feel Him in my soul. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Sita Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Sita Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Sita Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Sita Rama. And I have found a way to live in the presence of the Lord. I have found a way to live in the presence of the Lord. I have found a way
has to juggle everything around.
Did they change it so that they could get an advocate for me? Because
I don't know the reason for the
Melody
change.
couldn't make it today.
I know Melody couldn't, that's why she asked me to come and sort of stand in for her. Where would you like me to sit,
Is
Susan?
it where you like? Choose a chair, there are three.
No, I haven't been told anything about you other
Oh
than...
look, I've still left my dirty washing out.
Melody-
I thought I'd tied it up properly.
That's okay. Melody forwarded the email this morning that you sent to her, just so that I
Oh
could...
yes, so you've seen it, good.
I've seen that, yeah. So basically they were giving you somebody else's medication, weren't they?
Pardon?
Yeah,
I mean, I was going to write the email before that happened. I mean, I was poised to write it, but you know, that happened.
yeah,
As I'd already decided to write it, so I just put that down as the latest thing.
yeah. Don't worry. So
Especially with it being, never mind. I explained in the email. I don't need to go into that again, do I?
Yeah.
So you've
Yeah.
already read what's said about it.
yeah. So basically, the purpose of today's assessment
I know.
is to assess you for a Section 3, is it?
Mm.
Yeah. How do you feel about that?
Well, I don't think it's right, for the reasons that I said in my email.
Right.
You know, then, but you know, I'm not party to their decision to go ahead with it. In spite of what the nursing team said, they've said about it that they're opposed to it going ahead today because of the funeral, because of the court thing.
Yeah.
So I'm not party to the reasons for the decision to go ahead with it. You know, against the nursing team's advice. I don't know why they decided to do it.
Do you, if they weren't to put you on Section 3, would you remain here as an informal patient?
Yes, I'd be willing to do that. Yes.
Yeah. Well, if you can sort of get that point of view across succinctly, then that might help your case to not go on a Section 3.
Well,
Because
my mother rang me and told me that they'd phoned her at the from the office, you know, asking whether or not she was opposed to me going on Section 3. And I said to her before, just tell them, if I'm opposed to it, you're opposed to it. So she rang me again today and checked with me if I was still opposed, and I said yes. I said I wouldn't have used the word opposed myself. It's quite a strong word.
object.
Yeah, well, contest
Yeah.
would be my word, but they used opposed. So I said to her, well, yes, since that's the word that they're using, you use the same word to
Yeah.
them. That
And
you are opposed.
The reason they use that word is on section papers when they are thinking of putting somebody onto a Section 3. There's a section of the section paper that shows that they have consulted the person who's classed as nearest relative, and if they haven't consulted them, they have to explain why. And once they've consulted them, there's no grey areas. It's very black and white. Does that person object to the Section 3? Because if that person objects to the Section 3, then at this stage they can't actually go ahead with it.
Oh, what? I'm sorry, I don't understand.
If your mother is the nearest relative under the Mental Health Act, if she has told them that she does object to the Section 3, then they actually can't go ahead without
the
a
thing
different
is,
long drawn out process.
I see. Okay. The thing is that she did say the same thing for me once in another situation when I was still in London. So it must have been well over a decade ago, and they went ahead with it anyway. So this is news to me.
Did it take a while to get that through though?
I don't really think so. No.
Right.
But it wasn't on the day.
No.
It wasn't on the day that she said that she objected.
Sometimes they.
No, they didn't actually ask her in those words. She just said, please release my daughter from whatever. She didn't actually use the words object.
Right, that's a different thing. Your mother has the right to request your discharge from Section 3.
Yes,
She has to put that in writing for 2 days. Yeah. So there's all sorts of different processes.
So are you saying that because my mother said that she objects, that they actually can't do it today?
Not a Section 3. What they would have to do is if...
I think I'm happy.
They might try and talk your mum around and explain their reasons. So she might have objected, and they might have said, "Yeah, but you know this, that, and the other." And she
Yes.
may have.
She's already told me that she had a phone call from a lady in Nottingham called Jane Kirk, and that Jane Kirk said to her that I wasn't always taking my medication, and I said to her, well, you know, I haven't been prescribed any or offered any. Because, yes, because I asked not to be when I first came in. And she said also, she said that Jane Kirk had also said to her that if I didn't take medication, I could lose my home. So she said that to me. She told me that when she asked me if I wanted her to say that she objected.
What medication are they actually offering you?
Well, they're not, because I've asked not to be medicated. So, and
Right.
the last time I spoke to him, he said he wasn't going to force anything on me. And I spoke to Jack, one of the nurses, at the weekend, and asked, well, then what would be the purpose of Section 3? And he said, well, maybe just for further observation, and you know, to sort of for your leave and all that. I mean, sort of, you know, if they're trying to be helpful and supportive towards me, I suppose, if I was on Section 3, they might be obliged to make sure I got leave and had somebody go out with me, because I don't know Altrincham. You know, I would be lost on my own. So from that point of view,
Do they? I'm not familiar with
that.
this unit and their practices. Do they actually do they take people out on leave?
Well, they are doing with me at the moment, but I don't know if they're doing it with everybody.
Yeah.
No, I mean, no, you're quite right. Even if I'm on a section, I don't have to have escorted leave, do I?
No.
No, that's true. So, yeah, but I'm just saying what Jack said at the weekend.
Yeah. So it sounds to me like their rationale for putting you on the
You know
sections.
that I've just had my sister's funeral yesterday.
Yes, I'm so sorry. Melders have explained that to me. I am very sorry for your loss.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and that's another reason the nursing team said they were opposed to it, you know, because of the funeral and because of the hearing that might still possibly go ahead tomorrow for me to defend against eviction, even though my solicitor is, you know, just...
Why might you lose your home?
Just in the last few minutes
Why
asking for an adjournment.
Why might you lose your home?
There's a load of spin about me being antisocial towards my neighbour, who actually has been harassing the life out of me. Terrified me so much that the day after I heard my sister had died, the only way I felt I could cope was to get away from him. So I basically went on the run for about 3 months. My mum giving me money sometimes to stay in cheap places just to be able to stay away from home.
Wow. That's awful.
I mean, I did not want to be, because he's been so emotionally invasive. I didn't want to be near him at that time, just after my sister had died, because I didn't want that complication in my emotions being near him, and because, you know, we started off getting on all right. Once he told me it was a pleasure to speak to me, and once he told me that he told all the neighbours what a lovely voice I have, and I could sing again like that anytime, and it was quite loud. And then one day he just suddenly pitched up outside my bungalow, and I've told the story loads of times, so I'm using the same words. But one day he just pitched up outside my bungalow, effing and blinding, and saying, "Go, leave." And I'd already told the council that this kind of situation has been following me around for years, and that mental health professionals always say that I'm actually not being harassed, it's a mental health problem. You know, 100% of them have taken the same position towards me without being prepared to even look at the possibility that I might be being harassed. So,
and the more you try to put forward that view, the more they think you're unwell.
Well, no, that's not what I think, actually, because I think their approach to me is unprofessional, because anyone can be being harassed, whether they've got a mental health issue or not. So to take that position without even being prepared to look into the possibilities that it might be true, to dismiss it out of hand and make me feel like they're not willing to accept anything that I say is actually absolutely unprofessional. So no, I'm not convinced that they believe it. 100% of them en masse would not be telling me over 22 years that it wasn't happening if they were all being professional from my point of view.
Right. I can smell a familiar essential oil.
It's ylang ylang.
Yep.
Yeah, I put some on a tissue yesterday to go to the funeral. Because I do like it, and I've not actually used it before since I had that box. I've had it a few months. And I thought, well, I'll put some on a tissue because it does smell nice.
It does smell nice.
And I put it in my pocket.
Yeah, aromatherapy is one of my sidelines that I love to do.
Really? Yeah. I mean, when I put it on the tissue yesterday, I thought, so, I started putting the oils on the tissue about a week ago, and then after the smell went, I just let it lapse. But when I put it on, I thought, it's called aromatherapy for a reason, So I shouldn't have let it lapse. But anyway, so I put that on yesterday, and it still smells good.
It does. It does. So today, during this assessment, for you to be able to try and stay off of section 3, if you try and keep your replies to their questions very succinct, that will help you. If you say to them that you're willing to remain here as an informal patient, that will help you.
Okay, now why are you telling me this when you said that because my mother said she's objective, they can't do it anyway?
Because until I got the facts, I mean, you've told me what your mum has said. I don't know that whether since she said that, whether they've been on the phone to her again. So until...
Well, she hasn't phoned me to say that she's changed her mind, and she would have done, I'm sure.
Right, okay. I'm just trying...
That's my mum, she would tell me.
I'm just trying to help cover all bases just in case for you.
Do you know what, I'm gonna phone her and check, if that's alright. It'll take a minute. Okay. But she told me what they'd said. I don't think it would have said anything different.
Yeah, just ask her, did you
I will, yeah, I will.
object to section 3 going ahead?
Sorry, I am quite an angry person. I have angry flashes, and I wish I didn't, but I can't control them. Hello, yeah, I'm with my advocate, and she is wondering if I've got an echo of my voice back at me. I hate this. Yeah. Oh gosh, what's that? Your fire alarm? Okay. Yeah, she's asking me if you've actually objected to me being on the section like you said you would, or if anybody's spoken to you since you spoke to me and you changed your mind. Thank you. See you later. Yeah. Object, she says. Okay, thank you. See you later. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Brilliant.
Thanks. And they'll have that in the office, won't they? So you don't need to hear that for yourself, do you, from the horse's mouth, because they'll have it in the office.
It just helps me to support your case.
Yeah.
Your case, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, the only way they can go against that is if they do something called displacement of nearest relative.
Oh, well, why would they want to do that?
If they think that they need to go ahead with it, even with your mum objecting, they have to go through a process which takes a while, and it's a court process to displace your mother as nearest relative under the Mental Health Act. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm just telling you that
So do they
in
have to wait?
extreme
Do they have to wait for that displacement before they can impose a section 3?
Yes, however, what they can do, and I've only known it about, I mean, I've been doing this, I've been in mental health for 15 years. I've only known it happen about 6 or 7 times in 15 years. What they do to detain you whilst that's going on is that they extend to section 3. Not saying that's what's going to happen.
They can't extend to section 3. that's
Section
already
2,
there.
sorry, section 2.
Oh, right, okay.
Only temporarily until
Well,
they...
I spoke to one of the nurses yesterday, Jamie. Do you know Jamie?
No, I don't.
She's night staff. I didn't go to bed till 10 to 5 this morning because we were talking in my room, and she said the only way to extend the section 2 is a 72-hour rolling thing that can be renewed after 72 hours. But she said they wouldn't be able to do that in this case because there's nobody here to do it on Saturday, and that's when it would run out.
Your section 2 ran out on Saturday?
No, my section 2 runs out today.
Today.
And if they impose the 72-hour section, and it doesn't run out until Saturday, there'll be nobody here to renew it, she said. That's what
This
she
will be
told
very
me.
interesting.
And the other thing she told me is that there's another one, which is a 6-hour detention, which I suppose could also be a rolling thing, which a nurse can impose. So I was thinking, well, you know, if they want to impose a 72-hour section, and then over the weekend have the rolling 6 hours until Monday when they can reimpose the 72-hour section. So what's your understanding of it?
Well, section 5.4 is the 6-hour one you're talking about. That is a nurse's holding power, which gives them time to get a doctor.
I'm ever so pleased that I can show that I can retain information and communicate.
Yeah.
And that has to be in my favour, doesn't it?
Yeah. So the nurse's holding power for 6 hours is for 6 hours. They can't renew that.
They can't renew a 6-hour,
No, that's to give them time to get a doctor here.
but apparently they can renew the 72 hours, is that right?
It'd be very poor practice to do that.
Well, I know in normal circumstances it would be, you know, but not everybody's dealing with funeral and possible loss of home and being expected to do this at the same time.
The thing is that if they wanted this section 3 in place by the end of today, then they should have been finishing all this off before the end of today. You know what I mean? This should have been done in advance. It shouldn't be coming right down to the wire like which it is.
Well, no, a lot of things
and
should be.
to put you onto a 72-hour section 5.2 is really bad practice.
A lot of things in my care shouldn't be. But I would rather be, you know, because I asked, the reason that I asked about because the reason she told me about that was because I asked if this assessment could be delayed, as Melody asked that it could be, and recommended that it could be, because of the funeral and the court thing. That's the reason I asked about it, and because the nursing staff had also said they don't think it should go ahead today. That's why I asked about it, and that's why she told me.
Right, that makes more sense now. Thank you.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah, right, that makes more sense. Now, when do you get on with Melody? She's vegan as well?
Yes, I remember she told me, and she likes French food. And I showed her my little vegan taste of France book.
Oh.
She didn't look to it very much, and there's not very much. And I didn't realise until I got the books that there's not very much protein in there.
Right.
You know, so I can always add my own protein to what's already there. It won't make an awful lot of difference.
And how do you get your protein source? What from mainly?
Well, you know, proper protein dense stuff is like tofu, tempeh, and a wheat gluten protein, which is like almost like a steak meat equivalent, which is called seitan, S-E-I-T-A-N. S-E-I-T-A-N. I made my own for the first time ever a few months ago, and it turned out brilliantly. I combined a couple of recipes, one that was for the flavouring, I think, and one that was to make it firm. And I combined the two, and it turned out beautifully.
Oh, very good.
I was pleased.
So I'm not vegan, but I do like any food. So, you know, if I go to a restaurant, if I like the look of the dish, I'll have it whether it's vegan or not, you know what I mean?
And I used to go to, I used to work in a tiny little smoke-filled office with just me and the boss, in a restaurant called Food for Thought in Covent Garden, which I think is closed now.
Oh,
But I used to nip over there for lunch because I liked vegetarian food.
yeah.
Because my first home away from home was with a vegetarian family when I was 19, and that was my introduction, and it was really nice. So sometimes I would go out on purpose for a nice vegetarian meal
Yeah.
to a vegetarian place that didn't do meat, So
So, Susan, you and I have only just met. Where do you actually live? Where is your home?
oh, God knows. I don't even know if I'm going to still have one soon.
But where is the one that you
It's
do
in
have?
Nottingham.
It's in Nottingham.
Mm.
Alright. This is an awful long way from home for you, then,
I
isn't
know,
it?
but actually it's a better place. I mean, the shower works, the place that, they're talking about maybe I'll be transferred back to. It's got a really inadequate little shower trickle, and you only get 4 bursts of it. And, and they require you to be out of your room an hour in the morning and an hour in the afternoon, and you're actually locked out of your bedroom, however you feel.
Wow.
Unless you know how to stand up for yourself. And even then, they make it difficult for you.
Yes, I can see that this is probably a much nicer option.
Yes, like a hotel room, isn't it? It's a little bit of a false security when it comes to what actually goes on in here, but it is nice to be comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, well, I'm glad I've been able to get here today. Yeah, it'll be very interesting. So this.
I'm quite theatrical, I've performed a lot,
Okay.
yeah, and I'm interested in media and stuff. So I suppose a lot of where I found my source, SOURCE, over the last goodness knows how long, is from media sources. So that's what I felt most comfortable with, and so I suppose that's what I reproduce in the way I present myself.
Very good. So
No, it's an apology really, because I know I'm too theatrical for some people. They wonder what I'm on.
Susan, honestly, when you've been doing this job as long as I have, you come across so many people from so many walks of life, and everybody is individual. You don't come across as theatrical, you come across as somebody that is trying to get across as much information in a relatively short period of time in order to avoid being put on a section 3.
Yeah, but I talk and I laugh just like idiots on a chat show on the telly. I know I do, and I'm ever so conscious of it.
No, don't worry. There's never any judgment from me.
Okay.
Ever. Yeah. Don't worry about it. So who's coming? You've got this Jane Kirk coming from Nottingham today.
Oh, is she coming today? Is she actually coming today? No, I don't think she
They
is.
said they're waiting for somebody from Nottingham, so when you told me that Jane Kirk was from there, I made a presumption.
No, I don't think it is her, because when I spoke to her, it was less than 2 hours ago, and she was in Nottingham, because I wasn't sure if she was the lady I'd spoken to in the office. So she was in Nottingham less than 2 hours ago, and so she would have, if she was going to be here, she would have left by then.
Yeah.
So, because it takes at least 2 hours to get here.
Does it?
Yes.
And that's dependent on traffic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Very much so.
I was brought here around about, I got here about this time of day, not just a little earlier. When I was first brought here, it took 2 hours.
Have you been here for 28 days then? Or were you somewhere
I've been here
else
since the
first?
24th. My first day was spent in Nottingham. My first night was spent in Nottingham. So I've been here since 2024.
How long have you been working with Melody?
I've met her twice and spoken to her once at least on the phone that I remember. I can't remember any others. I've definitely spoken to her once on the phone, and it was when she phoned me on Friday. I mean, The team that came to my home, there were they took out 3 warrants against me.
Warrants?
Yes, to enter my premises. That's why I fled my home, because I was frightened, because I knew how they act when they get to me, and I knew the outcome, because 100% of the time, that's been used many times over the last 22 years, and 100% of the time it's ended up with me in hospital. So I fled my home because you know, I was needing to defend myself against eviction. I was needing to deal with arranging my sister's funeral, and
You've had to do all that, have you?
yes, I've arranged it all. And do you know what? Yesterday, not one person said thank you. Not one, and that hurt. It hurt, you know.
So you've had to arrange that whilst you've been in here?
Yes.
Wow, well done you.
So
That's a hell of an achievement.
yeah, I didn't do as well. You know, I'm looking back on it. I wish I'd done it better.
Wow. Don't beat yourself up about that. I can't believe you've managed to do that from here. I'd give you a hug, but I'm not allowed. There's a virtual one. Look at me. Look at me. Go on, virtual hug.
Alright.
No, I'm sorry. Want me to get your tissue?
You've read the email. You know what I've said in that about the way the staff have treated me, even though they know I've been bereaved.
I've only read the email that you sent this morning.
Yeah. In the early hours of this morning. Yeah.
It was about medication and wanting to give you something for a person with the same name across
Yes,
the
that's the
room.
one. The long email.
Yeah.
I've learned to, you know, I'm an English graduate, and I've learned that not everybody expresses themselves in short, factual sentences without any detail. That actually it's okay to write a good account.
Yeah.
You know, it's all right to write a good account.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, yes, that's the reason they actioned 2 of the warrants, the last 2. The first one they actioned, I wasn't there. They missed me by half an hour, and they phoned me to say that they changed the locks on my door, and I needed to pick up new keys. And you know, they kept advising me to go home, and I went home, and a few days later they turned up and you know, hammered on the door. First of all, there were a couple of ladies. There was a doctor and a lady from the council. I found out later that I noticed when I looked out of my window, and they were in a car. I think they were at my neighbour's house, and at first I thought that they were regular visitors, and I looked, and you know, they looked at me as if they hadn't wanted me to see them. And then there's this island in our little semicircle of bungalows. There's this island with silver birch trees on it, and they drove round the island and parked, you know, like a semicircle. Just drove round the island and parked there. And there's a big green space with a big hedge, and they parked outside that, and they had the little lights on the side of the car, you know. So, and they were there for about an hour, and I kept wondering who they were. I kept looking out, and I thought, I'm sick of keep looking out. I'm going to close my windows. I'm going to close my curtains. So I closed my curtains, and then And then the next thing I knew, the police were hammering on the door. They hammered, and within a second or two, they were shouting for me to come out. And that's the kind of scenario they always have set up with me. You know, it's just plain intimidation and rudeness.
Mm.
And I got to the hospital, and they assessed me. You know, it was more like an interrogation than an assessment. There were no gaps for thought. The stream of speech was kept intact, constant throughout. No thought spaces at all. And somehow they got from telling me that they were thinking of letting me come in voluntarily. I can't remember how they changed their minds, but they said that they wanted me to come in on section. And I said, well, I've already told you that if I come in voluntarily and you require me to take medication, I will. So why do you want me to come in on section? And she said, well, because you don't believe you've got a mental illness. And I said, well, forcing me to come in and take medication is not going to change my view on whether or not I've got a mental illness. And I've already said that I'll take it voluntarily. So, why I take it is neither here nor there, whether I take it voluntarily or whether I take it by force, because you forcing me is not going to change my opinion. It's just going to make the situation worse between me and staff. Basically, that's what I said. Just what I said, but and she kept, all the time she was speaking to me, she kept like fluttering her eyes and closing her eyes. And I said, I'm actually finding that a bit disconcerting, the way you just keep blocking me out. I don't think you should be doing that. And she said, well, I'm finding you objectionable. Hello.
Oh dear. Well, that's not going to work at all, is it?
She was angry. At least that's the way she appeared. But I think there's been more to it than that. For the way they've handled me, that team in Nottingham over the last goodness knows how long. I actually think there's more to it than just straight anger and annoyance and this, that, and the other. But even then, she's the professional, and I don't think she should have been like that towards me at all for any reason. What do you think?
It sounds very unprofessional.
And Dr. Shah, he didn't tell me, like I say in my email, he didn't tell me confidentially in a room, in an appointment, that he was considering a Section 3. He met me in the corridor and created a conversation out of it, part of which was he was going to recommend me for Section 3. And he told me there in the corridor, by the lounge, with people passing by, and I thought, I'm not actually being told officially, as far as I'm concerned, that he was recommending a Section 3. He told me in a chance meeting that he decided he would use for that purpose.
I wonder you're angry with that. That's wrong on so many issues. One, for your own dignity, and for confidentiality reasons. And, it's not therapeutic to just tell somebody on the corridor that you put them on Section 3. Sitting down, having a conversation with them, explaining your reasons, whether you agree with it or not, is a more professional way of doing it.
In the end, I said, look, this is just words. It's just words. It must have kept me about 10, 20 minutes, like I said. And it just was. If I hadn't stopped him, he would have gone on. And when the first time I said to him, I don't want this conversation anymore, and said it was over, he still tried to keep going. And the same with his junior this morning, who told me that you were coming. First I said to her, first she knocked on my door and said she wanted to talk. I said, well, not just now, because this, that, and the other, and I can't even remember my reasons. But she just kind of like stood there. She didn't say, oh, okay, but you just need to know that an advocate's coming at 11:30. She just stood there. And I kind of started to say things, and she was nodding her head, and then I thought I needed to clarify what I'd said, because it was something that she could misinterpret, so I did that, and she was nodding her head. And in the end I said, in the end I just closed my eyes, I said, and now I've said no, and you are standing there as if I haven't said no, making this a conversation that I don't want, and while I still have my eyes closed, she said, right then, I just need to tell you that you've got an advocate coming at 11:30.
And you said, why didn't you just say that in the first place?
No, I didn't. I just closed the door on her, and she went. Because that's me being bullshit.
I need to go and find a toilet, Susan. I won't be
Use
alone.
mine. I don't think there is one on, or there must be one for the staff.
Yeah, I'm not allowed to use
Aren't you?
patients'
Right.
toilets as far as I'm aware.
Because I asked myself if there was one that we could use other than the one in our rooms, when there was staff parked out there 24 hours a day doing one-to-one
Right.
for over a week when I first came.
What, outside here?
Yeah, but I was told there wasn't one for patients to use except the one in our rooms. Okay,
I'll come back as soon as I've been.
you know where the office is, don't you? Oh gosh. Yeah. Yes, yes.
There's no stuff around, I'm going to have to use yours.
Absolutely, yeah.
Whether
I'll
I'm
stand
allowed
outside
or
while
not.
you do to give you a bit of privacy.
I'm fine, don't please.
No, I got it.
Where's the light?
It's here. Okay. Oh, there's a porridge bowl that I just put to soak yesterday. I've not got around to washing it up yet. That's Jack, the nurse I spoke to at the weekend.
Right.
Yeah, he's got a very severe nut allergy. And I offered him a piece of vegan tiffin from Sainsbury's, and he wasn't sure whether he could eat it or not, and I didn't have the ingredients to hand.
So it's better to be safe than sorry.
Yeah, I was just thinking actually, while I was out there, maybe the reason they want, I mean, if it is, if it is for my convenience to make sure I can get out and not be lost and everything, then while I've got a section, while there is a section, then they have a reason to keep me on escorted leave.
Yeah.
So there's that, which I might not be able to get escorted leave if I'm not in the section. I suppose there's that possibility.
They won't keep you on the leave on a section just so that you can have escorted leave.
Well, they might if they wanted to be nice. If he's saying he's not going to force medication on me.
Well,
But then also
how long is it since you actually took any medication?
months.
Months.
Yeah, but it wasn't regular. I tried the medication that they you don't know anything, do you?
I don't, I'm so sorry. I'm just standing in for Melody, so no, I am limited as to what I do know. I do apologise.
They forced an assessment on me about a month before I was due to go to Hong Kong last year to see someone very dear to me in performance. And they basically said, we want you to start medication. Hospital is obviously an option. So I'd already decided that there was no way they were going to stop me going to Hong Kong, and I would just say that I would take the medication and not take it, if that was what they were going to force on me. And they forced that on me right from the beginning. They hadn't even assessed me at that point, really. And so I said that I would take it, and then I thought, well, come on, be fair, give it a go. So I gave it a go for 2 days, and I felt so ill I stopped taking it. Even though I'd been on it before, and I asked for that one because I'd been on it before.
What was
and
it?
Okay. It was aripiprazole.
And that's one of the ones that has the least side effects as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it made me feel really, really ill. Really ill. I mean, I was all over the place, physically I was all over the place. So I just stopped after 2 days. I thought to myself, well, I said I wasn't going to take it anyway, and I feel ill, and I'm not going to ask for a replacement because I don't want to ask these people for anything because I think they're giving me the runaround and being corrupt. So, as far as I was concerned, I'd given it a nod. I mean, I'd honestly, I was honestly prepared to give it a go, but it did make me feel ill for 2 days, and I thought, I don't want this, and I am going to Hong Kong, and that's the end of it.
But that was last year?
That was last year.
See, quite often any side effects like that do often pass after, a week or so, but if you were feeling that ill that you couldn't tolerate it at all, then I can understand why you didn't want to continue.
I was going out and feeling really disorientated.
Yeah.
I mean, not emotionally disorientated, mentally disorientated, but physically disorientated.
I know they're not forcing medication on you at the moment, but when they asked you to take something, what did they ask you to take? Aripiprazole.
What, here?
Yeah.
They've never asked me because the first day I came in, I said to Dr. Jess, just to give her a bit of respect by giving her a title, that I pleaded with her not to make me take medication, and she said, okay, we won't, but if your presentation changes, we might need to consider it.
And how's it?
Well, according to what Dr. Shaw has been saying in his doctor's report, it's been telling me face to face that there don't appear to be any problems. I'm getting on well with staff and all that. But what he said in his report was that I can be sort of like, confrontational when over things like the hourly checks, when I've wanted to be left alone. And the way they kind of might, sometimes they just hammer on the door and insist on talking to me and insist on engaging with me and all that. And because of I don't want to be here. I didn't want to be here anyway. Because there was a thing with my sister, and also needing to write my final evidence for defence to have submitted by the 25th of January, which I also had to do without internet, you know, and with all the contempt I was getting from some of the staff, regardless of the fact that they knew what I was dealing with, including the bereavement. I mean, you know, if you know somebody's bereaved, whatever you think of them, you know, facing eviction, if you know somebody's bereaved, I think that's absolutely inexcusable. And so, you know, you're saying you wanted to give me a hug about my sister. You didn't know that bit about me also having to submit final evidence for my solicitor, did you? No, because I had to do that here as well. And all within, you know, a few days.
Wow.
So, yes, so there was that. And one of the staff, Julie, she's the one I referred to last night in my email. She housed me really, really badly the night before that evidence was due. And she really was terrorising me, goading me, prodding at me. I was getting more and more upset. And she said she wasn't here to be abused by me. And I said, you know, this is what you do to people. You wind us up, and then you turn around and say, you're not here to be abused, but you're the one abusing.
Yeah. Hello? Yeah?
Don't know who it is.
Do you want to sit over here with me?
Yeah.
And we're together.
Hello.
Oh, hello, Kelly.
Hi, so they're ready to see you now.
Oh.
And they're asking whether they can see you in this room or would you like me to arrange an office for you downstairs?
I'd like to stay here.
Yeah? Okay.
Are you okay for it
Yes.
to happen now then?
Yeah.
That's brilliant, I'll go and get them.
Okay. I was thinking I would like to show them the email. What do you think?
Can you take a seat? No, don't show them the email.
Don't show them the email. Okay.
No.
Well, you said that they can't impose a Section 3 today because my mum's objecting.
Well, that's my
That's
understanding
your
of the mental
understanding.
health law.
I hope you're right.
Mm.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So let's just, like I said, just keep this conversation succinct.
Gosh, I'm used to church situations, and I thought you were going to say, let's pray.
No.
It's that kind of tone. I was ready to pray with you.
Oh, sorry.
So I know another one.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello.
How many chairs have you got? Alright, I'll get you another
We've
one.
got 2.
Okay.
Oh, 3.
Yeah, I'm level more.
All right, come in, Susan. Come in.
Yes.
Fine.
Yeah. I don't need that tone. That tone absolutely knocks me for 6.
Oh, what tone?
That you're not quite sure if I'm going to be able to cope with you talking to me as somebody who's academically intelligent and capable as well as anything else.
Well, I didn't realise all that came from a tone. I was just asking if we could
Yeah.
come in.
It's just a
Well,
certain.
It's all right if I come in.
It's a way that you don't talk to each other. That's all I can say. Yes, it's
Dr.
all right
Andrew
if you come
Stewart.
in. Pardon?
I'm Dr. Andrew Stewart.
Hello, Dr. Andrew
Independent-
Stewart.
Independent doctor.
Nice to meet you. At least I hope so.
So, Susan, I'm Cheryl. I'm one of the Improved Mental Health Professionals from Nottingham. So, do you understand why we're here today, Susan?
I do,
Somebody
yes,
let
of
you
course
know.
I do.
Right, so we're doing the assessment under the Mental Health Act
Mhm.
for Section 3. So Dr. Shah, I think, has already spoken to you, has he? Is that correct? At
When?
some point. Well, at some point during your admission.
Do you want to tell her what I just told you? Would you mind speaking for me on this?
Yeah, I'll tell them this, but this is your assessment, but I will tell them that because I think it might explain why you're a little bit peed off with Dr. Shah for doing it the way he did. Rather than sitting down and explaining that he was doing his Section 3 recommendation,
Right.
he caught her in the corridor and had a 20-minute conversation in the corridor, and that would rub any of us up the wrong way. So,
Right.
yes, he did, but not in a
Right.
professional way.
Okay.
And it's, that was not the first occasion that I think he's not really behaved very well towards me, Anna.
Okay, so the reason I asked that though is so you are aware then that he's done a Section 3 recommendation, which is why there's 2 of us here today. Normally
I
we'd
am
do it with-
now. I
Okay.
am now because people turned up. I was totally unprepared for them. they were outside my door on Friday afternoon,
Yeah.
and I said that I should have been notified and I hadn't been. And
Okay.
in spite of all their insistence that they couldn't rearrange, I was so firm in my belief that it was wrong for me not to have been notified. I refused to speak to them.
Okay.
And then I sat here for about 20 minutes thinking, well, that's that, I've just blown my assessment. And then the staff member or somebody came back and told me that it had been rearranged to today.
Today. Okay.
Yes.
Right, okay, so we're all too clear then what's happening. Dr. Shah's done his recommendation, so the doctor and myself are here today to do our part of
Mhm.
the assessment.
Right.
So, do you want to begin by telling us what your thoughts are about being here in hospital and any treatment that's been discussed with you?
How much do you know about my personal circumstances at the moment? I'd like to ask first.
Right, so I have a report from when you were detained here initially, so that was in January. So I have a report from the approved mental health professional from that about what happened there.
Mhm.
And also we've had a discussion with the staff here, with the nurses here, about what's been happening whilst you've been here. So that's what we know from their
Do
perspective.
you know that I went to my sister's funeral yesterday?
Yes, I do. I'm
That
aware
I
of
had
this.
to arrange from here?
Yes, I'm aware of that, yes.
And you know that I possibly, unless my solicitors managed to get the adjournment, she was instructed to get by the official solicitor who's acting as my litigation friend, I'd possibly have to be in court tomorrow as well.
I'm aware of
And that the
yes.
nursing team advised the psychiatrist against this assessment today on the grounds that I already have enough to cope with.
Yeah, I fully appreciate that, but I suppose the thing is that your section 2 runs out today, so we do need to do an assessment today, because obviously then we'd be in a position of you potentially being here unlawfully, wouldn't we? So
Well, I
That's
spoke
why
to
the
Jamie.
assessment
I
has
spoke
to
to
be
Jamie,
today.
one of the nurses here, last night until about 5 o'clock this morning, trying to find out exactly what the position was on that. And she said, well, there was a possibility of using a 72-hour detention thing, but there would be nobody here over the weekend to renew it, and that's when it would be due for renewal.
But also Susan said she's willing to stay as an informal patient.
Okay. Well, that's what we need to talk to you about today, obviously, isn't it? So I guess put aside all of that, and I know it's so difficult for you to do it today.
Oh, I'm
but
sorry.
it
My
needs
mother
to
told
be.
me, I phoned her back and she said that she'd actually spoken to 2 people, and it wasn't you that said about the
No,
medication or
yeah,
anything like
no,
that.
it wasn't me that said about that. I did speak to her, but no, I didn't say anything about the medication.
Right.
Yeah. So, again, sorry, what's your name? Jackie. So Jackie's saying that you're agreeing to stay informally.
The only problem I can see with not being under a section is that I might not get a guaranteed escort on my time out, and I don't know Altrincham, so I might be lost on my time out. But
Right.
apart from that, I would be willing to stay informally.
Okay. So what's happened so far around your treatment? What discussions have you had around what treatment is proposed, what you're willing to accept?
I'm not really sure what he's saying half the time because he seems to be contradicting himself in the
Okay.
position he's taking.
Okay.
But I spoke to Jack, who you might have met today. I just saw him go down the corridor. He's one of the
Okay.
nurses. I
Yeah.
spoke to him on Sunday and said, well, if he's saying that he's not going to force medication on me, what would be the point of a section 3 anyway? And he said, well, it could be for further observation and to regulate your leave. And those are the only
Yeah. no,
those are the only
those
things he said.
Okay.
But also, I'm a bit concerned because they're also talking about transferring me back to Nottingham, and in Nottingham they might make a completely different decision, and it's a very different regime there, and I don't want to be transferred back there because the facilities are really, really. I mean this. They are really, really bad. The bathroom facilities are really, really bad. I had to wash my hair in a wash basin because there wasn't enough water in the shower. It's a very weak trickle.
Right.
And it only comes off about 4 or 5 bursts, and then it's off about 20 minutes.
Okay.
So I had to wash my hair in a wash basin. They lock you out of your rooms for a 1 hour period in the morning and a 1 hour period in the afternoon. However you happen to be feeling, whether you really want and feel you need your privacy at that time or not. And I have been abused in other ways there. I find that abusive in itself. But I've been abused in other ways there, and I don't want to go back there, and I've asked for a block to be put on and being transferred
Right.
back.
Well, I've not been made aware of any plans for you to be transferred at this point.
Okay,
go
I'm
back to
surprised about
Nottingham,
that
so-
because they've spoken to me about it.
Oh, okay.
I
Yeah,
think
well,
if
it's
they've
possibly
spoken to
then
me,
that-
then you should have been made aware,
Yeah, well, it's possible.
or at least
then
of
that
an
I wasn't.
at least of an attempt.
Okay. But I suppose that, notwithstanding, I suppose the decision we've got to make today, isn't it, is whether we need to recommend that you're on a section 3.
Okay.
So my understanding from Dr. Shah's medical recommendation that he's proposing some antipsychotic medication for you. That's my
Well, he said to
understanding.
me that he's not going to force it on me. So if he's saying one thing to you and something else to me, then you know I am in a right flat panic right now.
Okay. What are your thoughts then about that? If he said to you, yeah, I do want to go with antipsychotic medication,
He's told me he won't force anything on me.
right? But whether he'll force it on you or not, what were your thoughts about accepting it maybe willingly?
I don't really want to.
You don't want to
I've
accept it.
I've said from the outset that I don't want to, and they've agreed with me so far not to do it. And like I said, the last time he spoke to me, in front of somebody else who came from Nottingham for my ward round,
Okay.
he said that he wouldn't force anything on me.
Okay.
Sorry, what symptoms, either positive or negative, of psychosis are we looking at with Susan? Because I don't know that well. I've only met her today. Are you all aware of why you think she needs some psychotic medication?
My regular advocate isn't available today. This is Jackie's just stepped in.
Oh, okay. Right. So you normally see somebody else.
Melody. Yeah, you won't know either because you're from Nottingham, I suppose.
Yeah. I've gone from Nottingham today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe Dr. Stewart's able to. It's more of a medical thing, isn't it?
What I have been told,
Mm.
so, is some issues pertaining to sensitivity to listening to the TV and or radio.
I follow some religious, spiritual teachers on the internet, and they say, you know, that often when you get into spiritual practice, watching the TV drops away anyway, and they recommend that you don't watch too much. And you know, lots of religious and spiritual organisations advise the same way. When I did my English degree, and they said, you know, you can't rely on a lot of it anyway. There's an agenda, and there is an agenda behind even a news programme. I listened to one man who used to work in Fleet Street, and he said, you know, if it bleeds, it leads. That's the way they go about things. And there is an agenda, and I was taught that a lot of it is propaganda, even when I did my degree. And I don't know what to believe and what not to believe, and I don't really want to waste my time on it. I'd rather read, I'd rather cook, I'd rather listen to music, I'd rather do that kind of thing. So, you know, I'd rather be able to watch the TV sometimes. But, you know, like I said, there is an agenda, and they do have targets, and I do believe I'm one of them. And there's no reason why I shouldn't believe that.
There are some instances where, at least one, so I won't make it plural, where you'd appeared distressed late at night and there was no patients up and you were wondering if people had been speaking on the corridor about you.
Well, it's very hard for me to answer that without being able to remember and without being given a date or anything. I can't answer that one way or the other because I can't even remember this. I don't remember anything like this, and nobody told me of a situation like that, where I thought there were people outside and there was nobody there. And that's never happened as far as I know. Nobody's ever put that to me. People have said to me when I've said something, oh, we'll try and be quieter, or they said, oh, it was patients, but I've never been told there was no one there, so.
In your opinion, why are you in a psychiatric hospital at the moment?
It's hard for me to give you a short answer to that, which I don't feel won't represent me properly, and which you won't see as psychosis.
Fair enough. Do you think there's any, do you think at the moment, irrespective of what anyone else may say, call, give a label, do you in yourself think you've been poorly in a way that would be called a mental illness for this admission?
No. That's my honest opinion. Except for the fact I've been left to cope with harassment with everybody closing the door on me when I say so and telling me it's a mental health problem, which I find totally unprofessional. Because if somebody says that, whoever it is, and whatever mental condition you think they've got, I think you should take them seriously. And 100% of the people that I've tried to talk to in the mental health services down the years, 22 years, have just come back at me with the same position, unprepared to take me seriously on any terms. And now I might be about to lose my home because of it. Because I've been hysterical in my home under my neighbour's harassment, because I have no authority to turn to that's going to support me. So that's why my home's at risk.
Is it a tenancy or is it your own,
It's a tenancy.
with a housing association?
With Nottingham City Homes, which is like connected to the council, but
Yeah.
sort of not. It's not a housing association, is it? But it's
No,
somehow
it's-
connected with the council.
Yeah, so it's part of Nottingham City Council, yeah,
Yes.
but yeah,
Thank
it's a
you.
different department of it, isn't it? Yeah.
Have you seen any evidence of that harassment
Yes.
here in any way?
I believe. I'm not sure that I've seen it, but I've heard the kind of things that people have been saying, and it's the kind of things I've heard repeatedly down the last 22 years. And you know, if you've read anything on my door, you'll see that, you know, I've tried to communicate
I
that
didn't
to
bring my
patients.
glasses, I was trying to, but I don't want you to think I was being nosy, hanging outside your door. But no, I haven't read it. What is that a list of those things or?
No, it's not. It's not a list. It's just saying that I told Dr. Jess and some of the nurses that were in here on the day of my admission that I am being harassed. That people always take the position towards me that I'm not, that it's a mental illness. But I told her that I am. That I've known people in the media. I've even lived in the houses of people in the media down the years. Not big people, admittedly, but you know, I had a Radio 4 news reporter as a friend in the church I used to attend. You know, there were a lot of media people involved in the church that I used to attend, because I'm not really sure why, and I'm not sure that I approve of that kind of niche church, but that's the way it was. There was a lot of people involved in the media, and so, you know, I just wanted to make the patients aware that, you know, this kind, that I believe this kind of thing follows me around, and people start to react to it within about two to 4 days. And, you know, if that is happening to them, and if it is a new thing, that I've already told Dr. Jess that this might happen, and asked her to talk to me about it if she became aware of it, but she never has. They've decided to put me on they decided they want to recommend a Section 3 for me instead. So I've put that pink thing on my door to say that that's what I think is happening to the patients that I've heard in some distress, and that seem to be saying the same kinds of things that I've heard for years. And you know, so that's how it stands at the moment. Yeah, so that's what I've done, because Dr. Jess told me not to talk to anyone about it, so I didn't. So maybe people thought that I was trying to hide something because Dr. Jess told me not to talk to anyone about it.
So is Dr. Shah the consultant and Dr. Jess like?
Dr. Jess is his junior.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can I check then, Susan, so the harassment that you're talking about here,
Yes.
what form has that taken?
People reacting to me when I'm singing in my room. When I first got here, there was a man who was, I think he was in bed all the time, and
Mm.
everything was brought to him.
Mm.
And there was staff outside my door, acting out and acting up in an appalling way. 24 hours a day, he was on 24-hour watch
Right.
for at least a week.
He was.
He was, but he was opposite me, and they were sat just by my door, the staff looking after him. And then after that, there was another man. After I can't remember if it was immediately or after a day or so, but he was up and about, so it wasn't quite so much of a problem there because
Mm.
when he moved, they moved, and
Yeah.
they weren't on constant 24-hour watch
Right.
outside my door. But I mean, they will talk at night. They will talk loudly in the corridor at night. The staff talking to patients, and I was told that that's because they're not allowed to go into people's rooms. Because I suggested, well, why can't you whisper in their ear at that time of night?
Mm.
And they said, we're not allowed to go to their rooms.
Okay.
So, but the noise carries, and it was an annoyance to me having that, waking me up at night.
Right.
But sometimes, I mean, they're not just talking to patients. Sometimes they're like talking to each other, like different ends of the corridor.
Okay.
And I did on advice from, I can't remember if it was on advice from the staff at first, but I did complain, and I got to speak to Sarah Furness,
Right.
and I said to her, well, I'm a bit worried that it's going to be seen as just my problem.
Right.
And she said, well, don't, because I've had about 20 other complaints about the same problem.
Right. So, it's just the wording there, I suppose, confuses me a bit, because you're saying harassment, which
Yes,
I
I think
that to
I'm
me says it's
able.
sort of malicious, and they would be doing
Well, it
it on
doesn't
purpose. That's
necessarily
my
mean it's
understanding of it.
malicious. It might mean
Okay.
it's a bit stupid and insensitive,
Yeah.
but I don't think
Yeah,
it should be
yeah.
happening anyway.
Right, but I wouldn't call that harassment
Yeah.
of you particularly.
Well,
That's
yeah, I've
just-
lived with it for 22 years, and I think I recognise the signs. I'm used to symbolism and metaphor and displacement and all that kind of stuff. I was taught that kind of thing in my English degree.
Okay.
I mean, you've got stuff like, loads of groups have code to include, to exclude, all kinds of things. Cockney is an example of that. You've got market traders speaking Cockney to each other, and it's on one hand it's an inclusive thing, on the other hand it's an exclusive thing. And if you're made party to how it works in the first place, it's like your ear's constantly open to it.
Yeah. I suppose I'm still just trying to get my head around, because you said you complained and they said 20 other people had complained. So I guess, like you said, that's more maybe insensitivity or inappropriate, but I wouldn't call that harassment.
Well,
either you
you're
or
not-
the
you're not
patients.
me.
No,
You're
that's
not
why
me,
I'm
and
trying
you're not
to
hearing what I hear.
No, but
But
that's
just
what I'm
because,
trying
I'm
to
sorry,
understand.
just because you're not hearing what I hear, it doesn't mean that I'm mistaken and you're right.
No, I'm not trying to say that. I'm just trying to understand
Is it more?
why you feel that's harassment. That's what I'm trying to
I
understand.
can't,
from your
I
point
mean,
of view.
you're asking, I feel as if you're asking me to actually disgorge my heart, and I can't.
No, well, no, I'm not asking that. I was just trying to understand your point of view,
Mhm.
really.
Is it
Yeah.
because I wouldn't understand that code, but you would? So then you hear.
No, what I'm saying
But
is I
it's
just believe I recognise it when it's happening. I have drama training. There's a psychoanalysis and reader response critical path that I chose to follow throughout my degree, and in the end and for the last year we had to commit to one, and that's the one I committed to. I think I've got a little bit of understanding about how this stuff works.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Susan, just doing all, you okay?
Yes, thank you.
So you said at the beginning you would be willing to stay. What would be your purpose in your view, what would your purpose be of staying in hospital for at the moment?
If I leave and go back home without support for the situation as I see it, that I am actually being harassed, I would be open to another intervention of the kind that has been forced on me over the last 3 months since I tried to get away from it after my sister's death. There were 3 warrants to access my home taken out against me. 2 of them were actioned, 1 of them in my absence. They missed me by half an hour, and they went in change the locks and then phoned me and told me I needed to pick up new keys. They kept advising me to go home, and I said, well, I don't feel secure there because you're just going to take out another warrant and you're not helping me with the housement. And so I did go home, and I stayed, and I was just getting used to being back at home after about 2 days and finding my way back and do the little things that make it feel like home and make me feel happy there. When a team turned up on my doorstep while I was there, and the police hammered on the door. I was just telling Jackie that the police hammered on the door, and within a second they were shouting for me to come out without even giving me a chance to answer. And that's been their approach to me throughout the last 22 years with it. And it's never not resulted in me being sectioned and put in hospital. And you know, I was willing to flee my home for about 3 months to try and organise my sister's funeral and deal with the upcoming court thing to try and evict me. So
Is that in Nottingham?
yes,
I didn't want to sound stupid because I assumed it was, but I wasn't
yes,
sure.
it's in Nottingham. I tried to get away from home to deal with that without being vulnerable to mental health interventions, because I felt I needed to be able to be free to you know. For one thing, I didn't know there was any such thing as internet in mental hospitals these days, because when I was there wasn't.
Might be a Priory thing.
Yeah.
Well, no,
they've
it's
got
also
them,
in
got them
Nottingham.
at Moorside now as well. Got
Oh, have they
Wi-Fi
got
at
it?
Moorside.
I don't know.
Okay.
But even here, I still didn't have access to my emails through the staff connection. And I was trying to deal with my solicitor and submitting final evidence and all that. I had to do that without my own email connection. I had to compose my final evidence without any access to relevant emails that I wanted to access. I had to do all that without that access.
This tomorrow, just so I'm clear, is this Nottingham, that company said, who's linked with the council?
I'm so frightened, my throat is dry.
Is that them trying to force an eviction through the court tomorrow?
Yes, my solicitor has had quarter to 12 today. She had a phone hearing to try and secure an adjournment that she was instructed to take out by the official solicitor who's been appointed to act as my litigation friend, but the council's opposing it.
Oh. That's
I mean, I think the hospital would support you about not going when you're in hospital for something. I mean, let's be honest, you're in here because of some disagreement about the nature of that harassment, but it's not because mental health services, they might disagree with what this harassment is.
I don't care.
But they don't
I
want
don't
you
care
being
why I'm here.
homeless.
You know, I don't care why I'm here. But since I'm here, and the official solicitor has instructed that he thinks there should be an adjournment, I think we ought to have one.
I'd be in agreement. I'd be thinking.
With him being my litigation friend.
Is he going to continue and try and pursue that adjournment?
Well, like I said, that's what the phone hearing was for this morning at 11:45. So she said she'd get back to me and let me know the result. But the council is also trying to get me to abandon the court thing by making me an offer of trying to find me accommodation in an independent living scheme. Well, I don't know anything about what it would be like. You know, I like the property where I am. There's no guarantee that nothing would break out somewhere else.
How long have you lived there?
4.5 years. And I also asked my solicitor, I said, well, you know, if this is an in good faith offer and they want to help me, is there anything stopping them from keeping that offer in place if I am evicted? And I've not had an answer back on that yet.
It's not for anybody to deal with that, is it?
Sorry?
It's not for anybody to deal with,
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
especially from here.
I've got nowhere else to go. I mean, I've not had a family home since I was 19. My father died of an overdose of sleeping tablets when I was 11. My mother ran away from our council home when I was 19, and I've had no home to go back to since. The only other place I knew was home was where my granddad and grandmother and great-grandmother and uncle used to live. But about 2 or 3 years ago, I turned up on his doorstep on his birthday with a card and some money that I owed him that he said I didn't need to pay back. I thought, well, at least I can give him that back. And he wasn't there anymore. and nobody knows where he lives. My mum's got a telephone number, but I don't. My sister had it, but I don't. Nobody's got my brother's telephone number. Both my brother and my uncle were so scared of giving their addresses that they wouldn't register my sister's death. I couldn't because I was in here.
Scared of who?
Well, my brother himself says, and I don't know why my uncle hasn't said anything about why he's scared to give his address, but he actually got to the registration office. He got to the registry office. I really don't think I should be being put through this today.
It's okay, we don't need to speak about that. It was just you were speaking, so...
No, I mean, it's relevant. I mean, I think it supports where I'm coming from, and so I need to tell you. Since it's come up, I believe I need to tell you.
Have you
So I'm going to do
spoken
my
to
best.
Susan's mum today?
I've spoken to my mum, yeah, this morning, yeah.
She says she's objecting to the section 3.
Well, yeah, she hasn't said that to me yet, so I'll speak to her again after we've met. But yeah, she said she wanted to speak to you before she gave me a decision on that.
Has she not given you a decision yet?
She may not have had my phone number, but I wanted, because I'd already spoken to her and she said she was going to speak to you, actually I wanted
I think
to
she told me,
meet
she
with
told
you.
somebody, she objected. I
Oh,
can
she
phone
might
her
have
now
been.
and check if you like to see if she's told anyone.
She was objecting when you phoned her whilst I was
Okay.
here, wasn't she?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean I have to speak to her in person,
Yeah.
obviously, because that's
Yeah.
part of my
Yeah.
role.
Would
so
you like
I
me to
can
phone
do
her
that.
and give you over to her?
I think, Susan, I think Cheryl might have to do that from the
Yeah.
office.
Uh-huh.
I think she might need to speak to her in private.
Yeah.
So that's not anything against you, that's
No.
just part of the process.
You know, I've got a
Smart
church
process.
background and I'm so desperate, I feel like kneeling to you to tell you this. But my brother is so frightened, nobody has his telephone number and nobody knows where he lives. He told me he's frightened for his life. He said he don't tell me what's happening because he's frightened for his life. My uncle went to the registry office to register my sister's death a few weeks ago, a week or two ago, something like that, after she'd been released by the coroner. And I was in here, and so he went because I couldn't, otherwise I would have done it. And he got partway through the process, and he was asked for his address, and he abandoned the process because he wasn't willing to give his address either. So, you know, he won't. My brother won't tell me anything. My uncle won't tell me anything. I feel it's possibly connected with what's happening with me, which I'm being open about, and for being open, I'm being called psychotic and delusional and being locked up in hospital. And I said to them yesterday, you know, whatever you're so afraid, I need you to speak because, you know, if it's connected with what's happening to me, I need you to speak. You know, so.
I know a long time ago you took an overdose.
Yes.
It's got a significant overdose of
96 paracetamol. At the time, I didn't know that they didn't act immediately. You had to wait a few days. But it wasn't with the intention of killing myself. I was just in such an awful place.
But you've not had any thoughts like that recently?
No, and I wouldn't do it. But I was just in such an awful, unreal place, not really understanding anything. And I just went into a shop, and it was when they weren't supposed to sell you more than 2 packs of paracetamol, and they let me buy 96. So I got them home and thought, right, well I've got them, I might as well take them. And I didn't care whether I lived or died. It wasn't that I wanted to kill myself. I just didn't care whether I woke up or
How
not.
long ago was that?
2003, I think.
Oh,
Yeah. It was just a few weeks before I was confirmed. And they didn't know that. And I had a really bad relationship with the church then. And even on the night of my confirmation, you know, they were really not very nice to me. And they didn't know I'd taken this overdose. I didn't tell them. But, you know.
Can I just check with you then, Susan, because obviously I don't know you and I've looked at reports and notes, etc. So I guess what a lot of things hinge on is that you feel you're harassed and have been for a long time by mental health services.
Yes.
So, and obviously the doctors have given you a diagnosis of paranoid schizophrenia. Do you agree with that diagnosis or disagree with that?
I don't know.
Okay.
But whether I agree with it or not, I don't agree with the way I'm being treated. And I also find it unbelievable that 100% of people that I've said that I've told I believe I'm being harassed, I find it unbelievable that 100% of those people would be so unprofessional they're not even prepared to consider it as a possibility.
Okay. And I think that's
Over 22 years.
Yeah, and I think probably that's where the differences lie, isn't it? Because mental health services as a whole, and that probably still stands now, are of the opinion that you have paranoid schizophrenia.
So they
and-
say, but as I said,
Yeah.
I do not believe that 100% of people, professionals that I've brought this up with, would unquestioningly and unprofessionally take that opinion, because it doesn't matter what diagnosis you've got, you're as vulnerable as anyone else
Oh,
to
absolutely.
any
Yeah.
crime in society.
Yeah, but I suppose what's happening is that those professionals, and I don't know, I've not seen the evidence, but their opinion is that this isn't harassment, this may be a belief that you have because of your schizophrenia, and it may be a delusional belief.
Well, the way they're
and I
treating
think
me,
that's where...
the way they're treating me and the things I know about what's happened here,
Mm.
I find it very hard to believe that that is their honest professional opinion.
And the more she tries to explain this, then
Yeah.
the worse that is for her.
Because it just, as far as they just use it to back up what they say is their opinion. If I say that, I mean, if there's
Yeah,
cause for
that's-
suspicion, even a paranoid schizophrenic can be justifiably suspicious.
Oh, absolutely, and you're right,
You know?
anybody can be harassed and people are vulnerable. Without seeing the evidence, my assumption is that those people are saying that there actually isn't the evidence to substantiate that you are being harassed. That's, I guess, my understanding.
Well,
of
they
where
are
we're
they
at.
are not me. They've not lived with it for 22 years,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to feel at ease trying to communicate evidence to people whose a priori assumption
Mm.
is this is not happening.
Yeah,
I feel
and that's-
totally invalidated before we
Right.
start.
And that's really difficult. It's a really difficult catch-22, isn't it? Because you feel like if you bring anything up, it'll be put down to your illness.
Mm.
So then you're scared to bring things up, and then
I've been
difficult
totally
position.
emotionally deprived over the last 22 years.
Yeah.
I've had apart from a couple of visits from two church ladies right at the beginning of my career in the mental health services in 1996. I've had no friends or family visit, apart from my sister when I was in Nottingham, and I probably had about 4, 5, 6 visits from her. In 22 years, that's all the family and friends I've had. Everybody else has been professional. I am emotional mincemeat, and I've just been bereaved.
Mm. Yeah.
Do you understand how this feels for me?
Well, I can't be in your position, but yeah, I understand it must be incredibly difficult.
I've seen no
Yes.
one really but professionals.
Yeah.
I've had no intimacy at all, no family intimacy in a hospital setting or in my home
Mm.
for 22 years.
Why do you think that is?
That's a strange question to ask me if you don't mind me saying so, I think.
Well, I wondered if you put that down to because professionals are always there, you can't have that, or if it's for other reasons. You don't have to tell me what those reasons are. That's the reason I ask it. Is because you were saying you've had no contact apart from professionals, but I guess
Apart from my sister, and like I said,
Yeah.
maybe 4, 5, 6 visits when I was in Nottingham.
yeah,
But no one else from my family. I've only got, I've got my brother and my uncle and my mother now that I know is surviving. My mother, nobody knew where she was for years either, you know. I found her by looking her up on the electoral register in an area that I knew she used to live before, and I knew that she'd moved. And I took a chance on an address because the woman was the right age and had the same initials. I thought, well, it's probably her.
yeah.
So I went down one day, and I went down to Lincoln one day for an hospital, and didn't know what I was looking for, and found eventually that it was a supported housing complex, a corridor complex with a warden. And I spoke to the warden and she asked me my mother's date of birth and she said yes it is her and she's in a wheelchair, she's got arthritis and all that. So it's quite a shock to see her because I haven't seen her for years and she was very, very old. It was actually quite a shock to see her.
How come you grown apart or not kept in touch?
Do I have to answer that?
No, I was just being a human being thinking it's a family story, so.
Well, you know, I mean, to me, human beings that want to lock people up and make them take drugs, potentially, are not people I can divulge emotional stuff to.
You said that to staff as well, haven't you?
Yes.
Mm.
Because anything I say, you know, can in a setting like this, I don't know what's going to be taken and used as support for the diagnosis or not, and I just don't want to give them anything like that. If I fall apart, bereaved as I am, with no one proactively offering me to talk about the bereavement, you know, how's that going to be taken? How's that going to be viewed? You know, the only time I fell apart was yesterday at the funeral directors when my brother walked in, and I just fell into his arms and howled.
I mean, my experience of, obviously I've not worked on a ward as such and not been admitted to a ward, but my experience of working in the community and visiting people on wards is that not everything actually is put down to an illness and ascribed to an illness.
Yes, but in my case, everything seems to be.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's everything. That's
Well,
not my understanding.
That's
of
not your
everything.
assumption to make with respect, because you're not me and you've not been through what I've been through.
No, that's just my perspective of what I've looked at and discussed with staff.
That's your theoretical standpoint.
Yeah,
But-
yeah.
You know, I'm not a theory.
No.
And, you know, your theories hurt a lot of people, me included. The UN says that forced psychiatry is torture. And that's a position that a lot of people hold, including me.
Yeah.
And even a growing body of critical psychiatrists,
Yeah.
some of whom have been invited to the Houses of Parliament to speak.
Yeah, yeah.
Joanna Moncrief in London is quite a prominent
I've read some
person,
of her books,
and
yeah.
I follow her on Twitter.
Yeah.
She says the last tweet I saw of hers, which was a few weeks ago, said that the mental health system at the moment is Luddite, was the word she used.
Yeah, I won't get into a theoretical debate with you about all of those things.
And
but-
that's a word applied to machines in the
Yeah.
first place, not to human beings.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah,
So-
I totally accept your point of view on that. Totally accept it. So just briefly, just going back to, so you've had lots of remissions, haven't you? You've had, I guess, enforced treatment in terms of
Yes.
medication. Do you feel that's helped you at all, the medication?
I can't access an answer to that at the moment.
Okay.
The nursing team recommended this assessment should not go ahead. I've just been to my sister's funeral. The first place in 3 months I've been able to fall apart. I am not fit for this assessment, in my opinion, and the nursing staff is obviously of the same opinion, or they would not have advised the psychiatrist the way they did.
No, but like I said, I guess the section 2 runs out today, so we don't have any.
This
other
lady's just going to
option.
keep coming back at me, whatever I say, isn't she?
I think they're here to do their job, and they've got to do their job. So I think by answering the questions, you're not doing yourself any harm by answering the questions.
But I'm answering the questions and she's always got a contradiction and what feels to me like a put down.
I've actually forgotten what the question was.
Well, no, it's just whether you felt medication has helped you. You don't have to answer any of the questions or
Right.
reveal anything. It's just, I'm just trying to get a picture. Cause that's
I'm not
part of our
able to
assessment.
answer you. If I could give you a clear yes or
Okay.
no answer, I might, but I can't
That's
at the
fine.
moment.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm not forcing you to give any
Okay.
answers or...
I like to be
Okay.
honest, and at the moment I can't say yes or no.
No, that's fine. Absolutely fine, yeah. I actually haven't got anything else I need to ask you. Thank you.
Do you think we've missed anything there, Susan, or would you like to ask anything?
Missed anything like what, for instance? I'm not sure what you might be thinking of. But if you knew, then you wouldn't be talking about missing it, would you, I suppose? So
Just if
I can't think of anything. I mean, what kind of thing might you mean, do you think?
I honestly mean it in the broadest, widest sense. That if we've been, we'll give you a lot of space to speak. But if you think, say, we've been, speaking about something we shouldn't, or you've missed, you feel you've not got a point across, it means anything.
So I can hardly hear you at the moment.
It means anything you think we've missed, or you would like to ask, you think hasn't come across well, or has come across well, or anything.
No, there's nothing that you've missed as far as I can think. I can't think of anything.
Is there anything you'd like to add?
Like, what is there anything you think I should add from what we've talked about?
I can't think of anything, no, but it just giving you the opportunity whilst you can.
If you can't think of anything, I can't, so we'd better leave it there.
Okay, thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So what we need to do now is we need to obviously have a discussion between the two of us about what our opinion is. Also, I need to speak to your mum as well, just privately, like I
Right.
said. So once we've done all that, we'll come back and let you know what our opinion is, if that's okay.
Okay, yes.
You're going to try and get your lunch now, I think. So
Can I
you're hungry,
do,
aren't
will you tell her what you believe about the decision? Please, have you already done that? You told me, didn't you, if my mum objects?
This lady is a trained, approved mental health practitioner, and she knows the Mental Health Act. So she knows the stance, she knows the position if you want to subject. She knows
Okay, can I
that.
tell her what you said to me? Is that okay?
Yeah, feel free.
Yeah, carry on. Yeah.
Jackie is of the understanding that if my mum objects, then you can't impose the Section 3 today, and you'd have to go through a fairly lengthy process. I don't know what she means by lengthy, to try
It's a
and get one
displacement of
imposed.
your nearest relative.
Yeah. Do you, want,
Displacement of nearest relative.
do you want me to explain that now, or
I've
later?
sort of
You've
explained it.
So yeah, that's correct. That's what would need to happen if we decide we
Praise the Lord.
If
we decide, because we haven't
subject.
decided yet. So if, speaking theoretically, if we decide we want to pursue the Section 3 despite your mum objecting, then we have to apply to the court in Nottingham to have her displaced as nearest relative, and then we can carry on and go ahead
Yeah.
That's
if they agree.
not very even-handed, is it? If that's my
It's-
nearest relative and you don't know what she says,
It's
so you just get rid of her.
it's a rare occasion, Susan. They're not
Yeah.
saying that that's what they're going to do.
Okay.
All right, let them have.
That's a legal option, I guess.
Yeah.
It goes
I
in front
guess
of a
you-
court. Anyway.
Sorry?
It goes in front of a court if that process happens.
Right.
So actually,
it's not a rubber stamp thing. It has
No,
to go in
it's
front of a
the-
judge.
we present the reasons of the decision.
Am I able to take it for granted that you don't think you would have to do that in my case?
I don't know. I would have to discuss actually with some
Okay.
managers, our team, because we take that decision. It's not me as the individual who takes that decision either. It's I have to do that in conference with my office. and
My
decide as an authority.
mother told me that she'd spoken to a lady called Jane Kirk.
Yeah, that's right. So Jane is another aunt who works in my office. And
Yes.
the reason why Jane phoned first thing this morning was because I was driving up here. So she was going to speak to your mum and just give us some information about what was happening.
Yes, she told me that she had said that if I don't take medication, I could lose my home. I understand that, and I still don't want to take medication. That is the premise that the council is working on, and the reason I've got a solicitor and that we're going to court is for me to contest that.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I understand.
I'm willing to take the risk.
Yeah, I understand that. I don't think it's as straightforward as if you don't take this medication you lose your house. I don't think that was how
That's
it
what my
meant.
mum's been told, apparently, and she's
Right.
very distressed by it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I can't speak for what was said to her, but that's not probably how we would phrase it usually. Put it that way.
I don't disbelieve my mother.
No, I don't disbelieve your mother either. I'm sure if that's what she said then.
Okay.
That's what she heard, yeah. I'm
I mean,
not
she
saying she's
doesn't
an-
always
I'm
hear
not
right, but
saying
I'm sure
she's-
she would get something like that
yeah.
right.
No, I'm not saying.
She
your
usually
mum's-
says she can't hear if she can't hear.
Right, yeah, I'm not saying she's in any way making that up or disbelieving it, it's just, the two don't necessarily have to be, you know, they don't have to be tied together, it's not as simple as you take this medication or you lose your house, that's
Well,
not
no,
my view on it.
obviously not, and that's why I totally objected. It has been put to my mother that way, and to me.
Well, and that's part of why I need to personally speak to your mum, because I've done the assessment with you now, so I now
Right.
need to speak to mum about
Okay.
my thoughts and opinions. And,
So, just from our point of view, you're going to go away, you're going to talk to Mum, you're going to have a
Yeah.
chat with each other, whatever
Yeah.
it is you need to do.
yeah,
When will you be coming back with an answer to Susan as to what your decision is?
well, I guess as long as it takes us to
Ish.
do all that.
Ish.
Well, I don't know, we'll say
Ballpark figure, as they say in the
It's just
business.
whether I'm trying to work out
I
whether it's
know,
worth
whether you
me
need
staying
to-
away, staying around or not.
We're not,
so-
well, I would say within about half an hour, would you agree?
Right, what time do we have now?
I don't know because my watch strap's broken.
Okay,
Can't wait at
it's
the moment.
1:30 now.
No, I can't stay, unfortunately.
You can't stay.
I've got to be at a meeting for 2 o'clock.
Right.
Okay.
Then, in that case, can I ask that Jack communicates your decision to me, please?
Okay, yeah, I
That's all
was
right.
wondering about that, if you'd want us to come and tell you, or,
No, I'd rather Jack dealt with it, if that's all right.
that's fine, so he can let you know the decision, and obviously then you can speak to Jackie about
Yeah.
the implications
I
of
don't
that.
know who else is on. I've not really seen many people
Okay.
today because I've not been out very much. But I know that I've spoken to Jack and I can deal with him talking to me.
Okay, that's fine, yeah, if that's what you prefer.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, and then assume you'll get in touch with
Yeah.
Jackie about
Yeah.
how you proceed after that, yeah?
Yeah, I've been here a couple of hours now, haven't
Yeah,
I?
yeah.
I've not had any lunch yet.
No, me neither.
No, I think
12
the
o'clock's
lunch
lunchtime.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
1:30.
I know, I think there was a
Will you
bit
still
of-
be able to get some food at this time?
I don't know. Sometimes they just send me some over. They haven't asked me. They did ask me what I wanted, and I said it was the last thing I wanted to think about this morning. But
Yeah.
I've often said that in the last week or so.
Hopefully they'll have saved you something. Are they able to cater well enough for your vegan diet?
Uh,
It's not a loaded question, I'm just interested.
I know it's not a loaded question, but I'm just not in a casual chat with you mode.
Oh,
I'm
fair enough.
sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fair enough, we'll leave you to it then.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for
Thank you.
seeing us, Susan, appreciate it. Well, this chair come from?
Yes. Just about there somewhere.
Right, Susan, I need to go very, very shortly, I'm afraid.
I was just going to take the chair up. Yeah, I think that's from my desk.
She brought it from down there, but
Yes, I'm sat at the
Oh
one
yeah,
from
oh,
the desk.
sorry. Right, yeah, obviously Jackie sat on one too. Thank you very much. I wasn't going to sit down, I was going to take the chair.
Alright.
Thank you very much.
Susan, I need to go now. I hope you found it helpful me coming.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Thank you. Yeah.
Good. I wish you well. I'm sure Melody...
If I hug you, is that allowed?
Yeah,
Can you
that's
return it
all
then?
right. That's fine.
Thank
All right.
Yeah.
I hope you have a good outcome.
Thank you.
All right.
Yes.
I'm sure Melody will be following up to see what happened.
But today, if my mum says she objects, they have to wait.
They have to wait. Yes.
Right. Okay.
But that would mean that you'd remain on your section 2 until that was decided
Right.
and then resolved.
Right.
But I'm glad it was helpful today. I think us being here was a positive thing for you. All right.
You know, every time that night, I was walking towards the door with the doctor in front of me, behind him, and I was just feeling just so positive towards him. And the lady kind of saw that, and she kind of like moved towards him almost as if to block any contact or any communication.
I didn't notice that. I'm sorry.
No, because you were over there, but they weren't there.
Right.
I don't know, it was obviously, she was very defensive when she saw the way that I was moving towards him, and it was just, and the way I was moving towards him was just totally open, and she became very defensive, in my opinion. In my drama trained, psychologically aware, body language aware opinion.
Okay. Right. I do need to go.
Thank you very, very much.
You're very, very welcome.
Sorry, did you say you contact me again?
I think Melody will be following up the outcome and what happens next, rather than me.
Thank you very much for your support and understanding and communication of sympathy and agreement and all that sort of thing. It means a lot.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh God, oh God.